Gu Yunlu's family went bankrupt, and when she decided to take a leave of absence to work, she was unexpectedly bound by the salvation system. But as soon as she entered her first world, her values were almost reshaped. Here, mushrooms grow on animal heads, noodles grow in cocoa fruits, and eggs grow on trees. This is simply off the charts. The second world is even more novel. Here, there is a talking Mr. Rabbit, a flying teddy bear, and even a card skill book for each person. Fortunately, the mission of saving the world is not difficult, which includes cooking, playing games, fighting zombies, chasing illegal immigrants from other worlds. It's just assisting the son of plain luck in fighting monsters. But every time she successfully completes a task, she can establish a space-time channel and shuttle back and forth between different worlds. Unconsciously, she has become a leader in various worlds. Until one day, she realized that her world was also on the system list. The female lead in this article is a growth type, without a male lead. The female protagonist is the first to wear a face soul, and most of the rest are worn keywords of the novel. The Fast Pass Salvation System 001 of Exotic Cuisine with no pop-ups. Download the complete TXT of the Fast Pass Salvation System 001 of Exotic Cuisine, and read the latest chapters of the Fast Pass Salvation System 001 of Exotic Cuisine. Chapter 1. Adventure System. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Adventure System. This winter, it's a bit cold. Gu Yunlu huddled under the blanket, listening to the sound of the wind outside the window, thinking so. 2 months ago, my father's company went bankrupt, his property was sold, and he owed millions of dollars. The whole family was forced to move into a village in the city and rented a small 2-bedroom, 1-living-room house. The room is too small. My brother doesn't even have his own room. At night, he lay a quilt on the folding bed in the living room, which was the place to sleep. It's still daylight now, and the indoor temperature is close to 0 degrees. Yunlu is a third-year high school student. Ignoring the cold, she stood up on the bed and sat on the desk. Her feet and half of her body were tucked into the blanket, with only one arm exposed. She held a pen and wrote and drew on the exam paper. She scored the best in English, with a perfect score of 150 on the exam and only 106 points. Most of her subjects were below the passing line, making it difficult for her to get into a third-rate university. Alas, with such difficulties at home now, it's better to go out and work early to earn money instead of spending money to attend a fake university. Unfortunately, her parents do not agree, saying that even if it's selling iron, they want to provide her with education. No, she needs to find a way to persuade her parents. Ding, Salvation System 001 is being activated. Binding to host. Binding successful. Just as Yunlu was trying to persuade her parents, she suddenly heard an electronic sound and mentioned that system. System. What system? If it were normal, she wouldn't have had such a big reaction when she heard such a sound. But now that her family is facing difficulties, as she has read countless novels, her first reaction upon hearing this voice is to hope that this system is real. Hello host, I am number 001 of the Salvation System and I have already bound it to you. May I ask if the system space is now enabled? The electronic sound reappeared, and Yunlu tried to answer in her heart, yes. As soon as she replied, a white light flashed through and her consciousness appeared in a room of over 20 square meters. This small room is surrounded by white glowing walls, with only an electronic screen in the middle. This sudden change made her heart beat faster and her mood couldn't calm down for a long time. If this is not an illusion, it means that a turning point in her life is coming. As for whether this could be a conspiracy, Yunlu said she doesn't have the time to think about it. After all, the future will only be known in the future. The system selects and matches 3 traversable interfaces based on the host's comprehensive ability. Please choose carefully. A long string of subtitles kept rolling in the center of the screen, and in the end, there were only 3 selectable tasks left. The savior quits and aspirates to be a bad boss. After the big shot is reborn, he only wants to lie down and embrace the harem with 3,000 salted fish. The beloved daughter of the heavenly way, Dada, has really become a master of cultivation. How does this task name resemble a novel? Yunlu couldn't help but complain about it. Finally, relying on her own intuition, she chose, the daughter lord of the heavenly way beloved. She really begins to cultivate. As for the other two, one is the savior who is the villain, and the other is the big shot who opens the harem. She feels like she might not be able to hold on and didn't dare to choose. The host task has been successfully claimed, and the interface of level C1234, for 328188, the daughter of the heavenly way, the great master, has really opened for cultivation, is currently being connected. Successfully connected. After the system voice ended, another white light flashed by. She quickly closed her eyes, but felt her head becoming heavier and more heavy, as if she could smell the aroma of fried chicken. She seemed to be asleep, but not completely asleep. She struggled for a long time as if she had been bedridden by a ghost before opening her eyes and sitting up in shock. Yinshi, what's wrong with you? Yu Xiaobei, who was eating fried chicken, was startled by her. She still had half a piece of chicken leg in her mouth and her words were a bit unclear. It's okay. Yunlu glanced at the empty classroom and found that there were only 2 or 3 people eating, so she guessed it was lunch break time now. At this moment, the system rushed the plot of the novel into her mind, making her feel dizzy. It has to be said that the writing style of this novel is a bit bad, but she dare not say it, afraid of offending the big shots behind it. She forced herself to finish reading it before realizing that the novel was about the protagonist Wanlingyu, who had gone through countless hardships and achieved great success in her cultivation, opening up the path of ascension in this world and saving the world from its fate of destruction. This is the original plan of the heavenly way. The current situation is that the female protagonist's soul has penetrated into another world and her body is occupied by a different soul. The fake female protagonist brainlessly consumes the energy belonging to the favored child of the heavenly way, and ultimately leads the world towards destruction. So, Yunlu was teleported over and found a passerby named Jia to borrow a corpse to revive her soul. Before the pseudo-female protagonist could consume all her energy, she had to find a way to open up the ascending passage in this realm. As for the fake female lead, when the ascent channel opens, someone will come to handle it. The task objectives were clearly defined, but Yunlu felt a bit melancholy. The original female protagonist's cultivation experience was extremely difficult and perilous in order to open up the ascending passage. She not only broke her bones and reshaped them easily, but also remained half dead now that she is taking over the cultivation path of the female lead. She is afraid that if the task is not completed yet, she will have to put in half her life. She suddenly felt a little headache and rubbed her temples, forcing herself not to think too much, so as not to be scared to death by herself. After calming down a bit, she reorganized the memories of the original owner Gu Yunshi and found them scattered and pitifully scarce. After struggling for a while, she finally managed to figure out the original owner's social circle and became familiar with it. The original owner, Gu Yunshi, is 15 years old and a freshman in high school. Due to her mother's second marriage into a wealthy family, she has an additional half-sister, Gu Yunin. Gu Yunin is 17 years old this year, in her 3rd year of high school. She is 2 years older than her and attends the same high school as her. The relationship between the two is not too good or bad, and they are currently in a polite stage. The original owner, Gu Yunshi, secretly worked hard because she didn't think she was excellent enough. In the end, she died suddenly in the classroom, giving Yunlu a chance to resurrect herself with a corpse. Yunshi, your sister has come to find you. In thought, her desk mate Yu Xiaobei patted her shoulder and gestured for her to look at the back door of the classroom. She turned around and saw a noble and gentle girl standing there wearing a school uniform. She looked at her with a smile on her face and even lifted the lunch box in her hand. Yunshi, it's time to eat, she said Yunlu only realized she was hungry when she saw the lunchbox in Gu Yunin's hand. She walked over, took the lunchbox, didn't know what to say, and silently followed Gu Yunin to find a stone stool outside the classroom to sit down. Open the lunchbox, and the lunch is very rich. There are prawns, beef, rice, meat dumplings, vegetables, and a bowl of soup. The food tasted good, but this meal made the two of them extremely embarrassed. Yunin was afraid of saying the wrong thing and hurting her younger sister, while Yunlu was afraid of exposing herself by saying too much. The two of them carefully considered each other's words and chatted haphazardly, discussing topics such as, "Nice weather today," twice. Finally, we couldn't continue our conversation. After finishing our meal, Gu Yunin took her back to the classroom. 20 minutes later, there were more people in the classroom, a bit noisy, and a group of people gathered at the door, as if arguing about something. "Ruanlingyu, don't go too far." From afar, Yunlu heard someone calling out to Ruanlingyu and only then remembered that they were both in class 1 of the first year of high school. In fact, her sister and Ruanlingyu are half-sisters. Gu Yunin's parents divorced when she was under 2 years old, and later her mother remarried and had Ruanlingyu. But Ruanlingyu's father had a tendency towards domestic violence, so her mother divorced again and lived with her alone. In the original plot, Ruanlingyu followed her mother, and even if the family was facing difficulties, her mother never approached the Gu family. Gu Yunin also saw Ruanlingyu and saw her younger sister standing arrogantly in the crowd, sneering, "Why, if someone's skills are not as good as others, then they might say they're going too far." End of this chapter. Chapter 2 First Task Interface. Modern Food Cultivation Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 First Task Interface. Modern Food Cultivation Realm. This plot is not in the novel, and Yunlu doesn't know what happened, so she had to ask her classmates quietly. Peng Lei happened to see the whole process and enthusiastically explained, "You're talking about Ruanlingyu. It's like betting with Qin Qiushuang on a martial arts competition in the competition field. Whoever loses will give the other party 3,000 yuan, and then shout 3 times in class, 'I'm a pig's head.' They went to the arena just now, but Qin Qiushuang lost in just 3 seconds. TSK, I really didn't expect that Ruanlingyu usually doesn't show off her beauty, and every move she makes is a big move. That's for sure. Ruanlingyu is used to pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. Others think she is a martial arts 6th Dan, but in reality, she is a martial arts 9th Dan." Yunlu didn't listen to the rest because Qin Qiushuang took action. She raised her hand and was about to touch Ruanlingyu's face when Gu Yunin suddenly rushed over and was stopped. "Private martial arts competitions are prohibited on campus, don't you know?" Gu Yunlu's aura suddenly changed, with a smile still on her face, but her tone and eyes were a bit cold. Her cultivation level is the 2nd level of King Wu, and Qin Qiushuang is only an 8th Dan martial artist. Her wrist is gripped and she can't break free at all. Qin Qiushuang only then realized that it was Gu Yunin who caught her, who was the first genius of the school. She was afraid of offending the deity in front of her, so she immediately hesitated and said, "I apologize. I was wrong. Senior sister, you don't remember being a villain. Please let me go." Gu Yunin didn't let go, but went to see Ruanlingyu. Unguarded Ruanlingyu almost got slapped in the face. She was feeling uneasy all over, but she recognized her true elder sister and was afraid of exposing herself. So she said generously, "I won't argue with you this time, but you can't cheat on the gambling agreement we agreed on earlier." Upon hearing these words, Yunlu's first reaction was that in this world, gambling with martial arts skills is not illegal. This is a modern world of culinary cultivation, where ordinary people mainly rely on spiritual food for cultivation. By entering the realm with martial arts, one can become a warrior. After completing the 12 stages of martial arts, one can be promoted to the rank of King of Martial Arts. Upon reaching the 12th level of King Wu, the legendary god of martial arts ascends directly to other worlds. In fact, the king of Wu here is during the period of physical cultivation and qi cultivation, while the god of martial arts is during the period of foundation building. Don't ask why Yunlu knows, because there is an introduction in this plot. People in this world have good physical cultivation talents. As long as they can endure hardships and have enough resources, they can generally advance to the level of King Wu before the age of 25. However, most people cannot bear the hardships of physical cultivation and do not have the money to buy resources, so their cultivation level is mediocre. There is also a small group of people who have spiritual roots and can walk the path of spiritual cultivation without refining their bodies. The process of spiritual cultivation should be easier, with lower requirements for spiritual food, but much higher requirements for the concentration of spiritual energy in the air. So except for those with exceptional spiritual roots, most people will not choose the path of spiritual cultivation. The original master had poor spiritual root qualifications, but had a good talent for body cultivation. This year, he entered the first year of high school and his cultivation has already surpassed the 7th level of martial arts. Gu Yunin's talent is excellent, advancing to the rank of King Wu at the age of 15 and the second rank of King Wu at the age of 16. This kind of talent ranks high within the province. Even if Qin Qiushuang didn't want to say anything in her heart, she immediately transferred Ruan Lingyu's 3,000 yuan and ran to the classroom podium. She vaguely said, "I'm a pig's head," and quickly ran away. Ruan Lingyu looked at her back and wanted to say, "You didn't say it clearly enough," but due to her sister's dignity, she didn't dare to shout at her. At this moment, Gu Yunin's aura was fully open, even better than that of the teaching director. As soon as she stood here, the surrounding melon-eating crowd immediately ran back to the classroom with a hesitant clatter. Yunlu is no exception. This farce has passed like this. After lunch, it's nap time. The classroom quickly quieted down, except for the occasional sound of someone flipping through a book. No one spoke. Everyone was resting on the table, and Yunlu immersed her consciousness directly into the system space. However, she found that on the electronic screen, in addition to the task introduction in the middle, there was an additional, beginner gift package icon in the upper right corner. "What is this?" she asked the system. "Host, this is a beginner gift package that will be helpful for this mission." What? Unexpectedly, the beginner gift package was also related to tasks. She clicked on the icon with her hand, and the gift box shook and appeared at her feet. Surprisingly, the gift box has changed from an icon to a physical item. She was amazed in her heart, and when she opened the gift package, she found a palm-sized white jade and a manual inside. After carefully reading the instruction manual, Yunlu realized that Baiyu was a jade slip of the cultivation method, named Ling Shi Tu Jian, which was the most suitable cultivation method for her. This name doesn't sound like a martial arts technique no matter how it sounds, but rather like a recipe book. Based on her trust in the system, she followed the steps in the manual and held the white jade in her hand, silently reciting the contract in her heart. In an instant, the white jade turned into a stream of light and flew into her mind. Oh, no, she doesn't have a body right now, she's in a divine soul state in the system space. So this cultivation technique jade slip is a contract with her divine soul, hidden in her divine soul. The spiritual food illustrated book appeared in her consciousness, resembling a book with 3 parts of content. The first part is about practicing martial arts. The second part is the spirit food manual. The third part is the blank food identification page. The system didn't deceive her. This is indeed a cultivation method, but it seems to have been practiced by a chef. System, are you sure you're not mistaken? She can't even hold the kitchen knife steadily, where does it tell that she has a talent for cooking? After system evaluation, this is the most suitable technique for the host. Please do not doubt the system's ability. Okay, whether you have culinary talent or not, you have to try it before you know. However, what is rare is that this time the sound of the system carries a hint of emotion. Yunlu mentally choreographed the system and flipped through the recipe, thinking about how to make reasonable use of the next task. She casually flipped through 2 pages and found that there was too much content inside. It was not a problem to flip through so aimlessly. Fortunately, at this moment, the system promptly sounded a prompt sound again. Dear host, after system calculation, we have customized a new task mainline for you. May I ask if you would like to accept it? Yes. Actually, she didn't quite hear what the system was saying. She accepted it first before speaking. The task interface where the host is currently located is a backward modern cultivation world, and cultivation mainly relies on the spiritual energy contained in food, but the utilization rate of food is not high. The host can assist local residents in this realm in their cultivation by making spiritual food, helping others to quickly ascend and complete this salvation mission in the modern world of cultivation. The utilization rate of food is not high. Spiritual food can assist others in their cultivation and ascent. Yunlu quickly found the keywords. So, did she change from main C to auxiliary? No, maybe it's a wet nurse. However, these are not important. What's important is that in the future, she won't have to break bones and fight for resources like the original female lead did. She just needs to study how to cook well. This is really good news. To be honest, she is not yet 17 years old and still underage. If it's due to system tasks, it would be a bit terrifying to be on the brink of death as soon as you cross over. Fortunately, the main storyline of the mission can be changed. Yunlu breathed a sigh of relief and agreed to the system's request to change the main task. The system adjusted the main task and immediately released a beginner task. The main task has been generated. Please complete the following tasks as soon as possible, host. Novice Task 1. Make holy mantou. Step 1. Collect regular flour. Step 2. Collect regular yeast. Step 3. Make spiritual mantou. Reward. 30 points, end of this chapter. What is the length of your noodles in chapter 3? You are listening at novelfull.audio. What is the length of your noodles in chapter 3? Yunlu looked at the new task and thought it was just making mantou. It should not be difficult. At 5:30 p.m., as soon as the school bell rang, she grabbed her backpack and ran outside. Thank you to the heavens of this world, and thank you to the school leaders. Surprisingly, high schools here do not have evening self-study omega. God knows, it's been a long time since she went to and from school at dawn. However, because she was concerned about the task, she didn't wait for Gu Yunin and took a taxi home directly. Gu's home is not very close to the school, and it took her over 30 minutes to drive there. At the same time, it also cost her a whole 108 yuan. Gu Yinshi never wanted his adoptive father's pocket money, and he also felt sorry for his mother's difficulty in raising her, so the money in his hands never exceeded 4 figures. Yunlu inherited her property, opened her wallet, and found that the balance was less than 500. She painfully paid for the car fare so, in the future, she might as well ride on her sister's car. The Gu family's mansion was too large, and she didn't quite know the way, so she asked a maid to help guide the way. After winding around for more than 10 minutes, she arrived at the kitchen and found that there were strange and thorny stones inside, as well as potted plants with different shapes. She looked at the maid with suspicion and said, "Are you sure you're not taking the wrong route? There are a lot of strange things here, but on the contrary, I haven't seen a single one of those common fruits and vegetables." "Oh, no, there are still some. Next to the stove, there is a small animal with a bowl-sized mushroom growing on its head." The chef wearing an apron reached out and grabbed the mushroom on top of its head, then washed it and threw it into the pot. Looking at that little animal again, the mushrooms on its head were gone, and immediately 2 thumb-sized mushrooms emerged. I didn't expect that she could see the classic scenes in the anime once she traveled through it. The maid was taken aback by Yunlu's shocked gaze, and only realized after a while that Miss Yinshi was afraid she didn't recognize these ingredients. After thinking for a moment, she scanned the nearby table with her eyes and found the noodle fruit she knew. With a finger, she said, "Miss Yunshi, look at this, it's noodles." Yunlu looked in the direction of her fingers and saw nothing except a bunch of brown fruits that looked like cocoa nuts. However, through the pitiful memory of the original owner, she finally realized that the ingredients of this world are much larger than the trees. She had a guess in her heart, but still felt incredulous. She confirmed, "Isn't the noodles white and long? Are you sure this brown thing is noodles?" Miss Yunshi looked a bit naive and cute, and the maid wanted to laugh but didn't dare to. She didn't know how to answer for a moment. The chef standing on the side couldn't bear to watch anymore. He walked up and patted the brown fruit like a watermelon, then picked one and said with a smile, "Miss Yunshi, this noodle fruit is ripe. How about I open it for you to take a look?" Yunlu felt as if she was pointing at rice, and in surprise, she asked the ignorant and wealthy second generation, "This is actually rice?" It was a bit awkward, but she still nodded. The chef was authorized to pick up the fruit, cut it with a knife, break it with his hand, and split the shell into 2 pieces, revealing the loose white flesh inside. He put the fruit flesh into the water basin and stirred it with his hand, causing the white, slender noodles to scatter and revealing the brown fruit pit in the middle. "Miss Yunshi, this brown fruit is thin noodles. The black one is wide noodles, and the gray one is round noodles. Would you like to take a look?" Yunlu felt that everything here had overturned her past cognition, and her curiosity was suddenly aroused. "Sure." Then, one by one, the noodles were cut open, revealing the flat or round noodles inside. After seeing all types of noodles and fruits, she was still not satisfied and asked tentatively, "Is Mantou so long?" Sure enough, the chef took out a spiky ball as big as a basketball, like a hedgehog, and said, "This is the Mantou fruit." He pried open the Mantou fruit with a knife, shook out 4 or 5 pomegranate-sized balls, and continued science popularization. "This is the seed of Mantou fruit. There are 2 seed kernels inside the seed, that is, Mantou that has not been steamed yet. Raw Mantou are smaller than fists. When steamed on steam, their body will expand 1.5 times, becoming the size of Mantou in her mind. Unexpectedly, the Mantou here is like this." Yunlu's curiosity grew even stronger, and she completely forgot about the task. She pointed to the strange-shaped potted plants next to her and asked, "What are these?" The chef picked up a potted plant that looked like a flytrap, pinched its mouth with his hand, took a bowl to catch the light yellow liquid flowing down, and said proudly, "This is cooking wine. Miss Eyre, you haven't seen it before. Look at that light soy sauce, this is sesame oil." Yunlu. She silently averted her gaze and comforted herself. This was not saliva, it was just the nectar of plants. However, "Can you introduce me to all the common ingredients?" She needs to have a clear idea of how the food she eats comes from. Next, through the chef's introduction, she was able to see what a brain hole is. Perhaps the heavenly way in this world is too imaginative, and the ingredients here are mostly bizarre. The ink fish sprays is not ink, it is soy sauce, which is considered normal. The fruit growing on the tree is a dim sum that can be eaten directly. Milk hot spring, it's really milk inside. The bones of a large flying bird are fried to resemble French fries. The lion's head, in braised lion's head, like potatoes, grows in the soil. The most outrageous thing is that eggs are actually fruits of a fruit tree. Eggs grow on the egg tree, and then eggs hatch into chicks. What the hen lays is not eggs, but fruit seeds. She doesn't understand, what is the significance of such a fuss? Is it to avoid the question of whether the chicken lays the egg or the egg lays the chicken? Yunlu. System, come out and let's talk. She felt like an ignorant fool in her current self. Host, you say, I listen. She asked directly, why not let me inherit more of the memories of the original owner? The memories she received perfectly avoided common sense knowledge, which was quite coincidental. Host, only memories that have been granted permission by the original owner can be opened to you. The system immediately replied. The current memories of emotions are still copyrighted with the permission of the original owner. Why aren't these common sense knowledge open to her? Yunlu didn't ask this question at all. After all, it is estimated that the original owner would not have anticipated that some people may not know these common sense. Is it still possible to request copyright now? No way. The Yin underworld where the original master's spirit is located has exceeded the communication range of the system. Yunlu. Okay, this is the end of the matter. It's pointless to continue to dwell on it. Instead, it's just some common sense in daily life. Just spend more time understanding it. She used the excuse of going to the bathroom, sitting on the toilet, and secretly using her phone to check the common sense of this world. 10 minutes later, she was challenged by common sense and still couldn't see any words about wheat. She couldn't help but think to herself, isn't there no wheat in this world? Yunlu's heart was filled with murmurs. After searching for a few minutes, she finally found the word wheat in a small corner of an article introducing bird and animal feed. Wheat, also known as wheat, is one of the favorite snacks for hens and can also be used to make Warcraft feed. That's it. Yunlu immediately placed an order online and bought a large bag of wheat, which was expedited and delivered in 10 minutes. The wheat is done, but yeast stones are not easy to find. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Mantou with Spiritual Noodles. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Mantou with Spiritual Noodles. There are two main ways to obtain yeast stones in this world. The first method is to plant yeast mushrooms on flat land. When the mushrooms mature, the soil used for mushroom cultivation will produce small yeast stones. The second method is to raise a batch of yeast snails at the bottom of a pond filled with mud, and once the snails grow, yeast stones can be dug out from their bodies. However, most of the food in this world is ready-made, so yeast is used less and it is not easy to obtain. She can buy it online, but the fastest delivery time is 3 days. Fortunately, the chef had planted a few yeast mushrooms in the garden, and now they are growing half dead, but it doesn't prevent her from digging yeast stones. She rolled up her sleeves and just dug a dustpan of soil next to the mushroom when she was stopped by the chef Li Deshang. Miss Yunshi, how can you do such a thing? Let's leave it to us. Pang, come and sieve the stones. Here we go. Pang patted his plump belly and ran over, panting and taking the dustpan. Yunlu couldn't grab it, so she decided to squat beside and watch. I saw Pang bouncing and picking up a gray stone the size of a mung bean, and placing it on the open space next to him. This speed is very fast, just like when he shakes a spoon. Pang flipped his spoon and curiously asked, Miss Yunshi, why do you want this thing? She didn't hide it. She said truthfully, make Mantou. Pang's bumpy hand suddenly collided with Li Deshang's gaze, and through silent eye contact. How could our young lady have such naive thoughts? At one time, there were many chefs who had this idea, but the Mantou made was ugly and hard, and now it is almost synonymous with dark cooking. Besides, yeast stone is used to make yogurt cow feed, and it doesn't match with Mantou. But she is Miss Gu, they dare not say anything. The two chefs did not speak, but the maid Li was a straight person and doubted. Isn't Mantou grown on trees? How can yeast stone make Mantou? Yunlu gathered a small handful of yeast stones that had just been sorted out on the ground and said with a smile, of course, you can take a good look. She has never made Mantou, but when she saw others do it, she added yeast powder to the flour, added water, kneaded it, and put it on for a while. Coincidentally, the delivery has arrived at this moment, and a large bag full of wheat is enough. Yunlu borrowed an electric small grinder from the kitchen to grind the wheat into powder. A few chefs have prepared dinner, and now there's nothing else to do. They all gather around a grinding plate, watching the wheat grains grind into powder, knowing roughly what the lady is going to do. Some people have tried to use wheat flour to make mantou before, but the finished product is harder than bricks. Wu Dazue, the new cook, thought of the failed product on the internet and was happy. He said quickly, "If this thing can make mantou, I will do cooking on my head." After speaking, he realized that it was Miss Yunxi's idea and quickly covered his mouth, hoping she didn't hear. Unfortunately, it was too late. Yunlu heard it and exclaimed excitedly, "Okay, that's what you said." She hasn't seen upside-down stir-fry yet. Wu Dazue regretted it. He had nothing to do with spitting. Later, Miss Yunxi failed. Isn't she the first to vent her anger on him? No one here thinks Yunlu can make mantou, including the kind-hearted and honest maid. Everyone watched as the wheat grains were gradually ground into powder. Yunlu washed the yeast stones clean, pounded them into powder with a stone, and then soaked them in clean water. When the flour was ground into a small bowl, Yunlu couldn't wait for it to finish grinding, so she immediately started kneading the noodles. Because she didn't know the effect of yeast, she only added a small half-scoop of water soaked in yeast powder when kneading the noodles for the first time. Different from making ordinary mantou, when making spiritual mantou, you need to knead the dough while using special techniques to introduce and seal the spirit of heaven and earth into food. The technique of attracting and sealing spirits is not difficult. Yunlu learned it at a glance, as if she was not learning new knowledge, but rather picking up memories that had been forgotten for many years. It was very easy. In the next few minutes, she kneaded the dough, added water, and infused spiritual energy, causing powder to be scattered all over the chopping board. Finally, the dough in her hand became shaped. She covered the dough with a large bowl, woke up for a while, and then kneaded it again. After waiting for about half an hour, the wheat grains were all ground into powder. Yunlu saw that it was almost time and lifted the lid of the bowl, only to see that the group hair grew nearly 3 times larger. She poked the dough with her hand, it was a bit too soft. It seems that the next time we will add less yeast water. She kneaded the dough into long strips, expelled any bubbles inside, used a knife, and excitedly said, "All right, masterly, lend me the steamer." Everyone looked at this decent mantou embryo and was amazed. They all worked together to clear up the steamer, boil water, wait for the steamer to steam, and then put mantou in the steamer. Slowly, the smell of mantou came from the steamer. Yunlu opened the lid of the steamer and saw that the mantou was not soft and deformed. She sighed with relief and then poked it with her hand. It was played by Q. "It's done." Yunlu looked at her labor achievements and was very happy. The chefs looked at the elastic mantou and were shocked. "What are you doing? Come and have a taste." Yunlu broke the mantou with her hand, and one of them gave them a piece to taste. She took a piece of it herself and took a bite. The wheat smell of mantou instantly permeated her mouth. Gently chew and swallow, the gentle spiritual energy enters the stomach through the esophagus, then spreads inside the body and enters the meridians of the limbs, making it comfortable to stretch. Unexpectedly, the chefs were eating soft mantou, and they all said they were surprised. Unexpectedly, this young lady has such talent. She actually made the handmade mantou that is unprecedented. Everyone was overjoyed, but Wu Damao felt bitter in his heart. When he saw Miss Yunxi's eyes shining brightly at him, he knew he couldn't escape his upside-down performance of stir-frying. Alas, why did he have a quick tongue at that time? Unlike other chefs who were only shocked by the success of hand-made mantou, Chef Li Deshang was knowledgeable and ate mantou at once. Is this spiritual food? Using wheat grains without spiritual energy to make spiritual food containing spiritual energy. He suddenly realized that the first, from nothingness to existence, spiritual food had emerged. He looked at Miss Yunxi, who was full of joy, and smiled innocently. It was estimated that she had not realized what the production of mantou meant. After hesitating for a while, he finally dialed the phone of Miss Yunxi's birth mother, Mrs. Gu, and said, "Hello Mrs. Gu, I am the head chef Li Deshang. There is something here that is related to Miss Yunshi. Gu Luogue is a university professor. As soon as he returned home from school, he received a phone call and learned that something big had happened to his daughter. She immediately rushed to the kitchen and saw two chefs each holding the legs of the third chef, making him stand upside down on the stove. The upside-down chef, holding a pot in both hands, was struggling to stir-fry the dishes under the pot with chopsticks. Looking at her daughter again, Yuxingzi was about to jump onto her face, but she stood beside her clapping and cheering. Gu Luogue is a university language professor who is used to being elegant in front of people, but seeing this scene in front of him still makes him furious. Yunshi, what are you messing around with? End of this chapter. Chapter 5. System Mall. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 System Mall. In fact, Yunlu had originally planned to let go of Wu Da's mouth, but Pang didn't mind the big deal by watching the excitement. He said that his cultivation was in the 8th level of martial arts, and it wouldn't be a problem for him to stand upside down for an hour, so she was tempted. Unexpectedly, this scene was caught by the mother of the original owner. With a thump in her heart, she quickly took a few small steps back and stood next to Pang, pointing at him with her fingers. With a strong sense of anger, she said, "He instigated it, everyone saw it. As long as it's not her fault, my mother can't punish her if she can't find a reason." This is the survival rule that she remembers in her heart. Gu Luoxian had noticed the mantou on the stove at the moment, ignored her daughter's mischief, suppressed her anger, walked over, broke open the mantou and ate it, and asked, "Did you make this?" Yunlu quickly nodded. "Is it made from regular wheat and yeast stones?" "That's right." Yunlu nodded again, a little puzzled. "Mom, how did you know? Are there any spies here?" She said, "How could it be so coincidental? It's rare for her to do a bad thing, and she was caught by someone. It turns out someone secretly reported it." She glanced at the chef with a corner of her eye. "Humph, he was the only one who called just now, so it must be him who filed a complaint." Gu Luoxian did not notice her daughter's small movements. She looked at the mantou in her hand and realized the seriousness of the matter. "Today, my daughter made a spiritual food using ordinary ingredients. Judging from the concentration of spiritual energy, it is estimated to be a level 3 spiritual food. This is no longer from nothing to something, but from nothing to something very much. Leaving aside the fact that this violates the diminishing spiritual power law of spiritual food, it will cause much turbulence in the scientific community. If we only talk about the talent of making spiritual food at the higher level, if it catches the attention of the big shots, especially those who are limited by the spiritual food level and cannot advance." She could already anticipate the scene where the situation was exposed. Her daughter was coveted by scientists, threatened by big shots, lost her personal freedom, and even the right to life and death was in the hands of others. This is not what she wants to see. Unless, the ability to make spiritual food in the Ekizan is not a unique talent of the daughter, but can be replicated on a second person. No, even so, before this result comes out, her daughter is probably going to be studied badly. So the best way is to turn passivity into initiative. She needs to buy time, push her daughter to a higher position where others can't easily move, and strive for enough time to give her the ability to protect herself. Gu Luoxian thought about this place and immediately ordered. "No one is allowed to tell what happened here today. Later, a lawyer will come to sign a confidentiality agreement with you. In addition, these mantou will be packed in brocade boxes immediately. Nobody is allowed to move without my command." Jinyu box is a special container for holding spiritual food, with varying quality and price. Generally, households will keep 4 or 5 of them on hand. In families like the Gu family, the common brocade and jade boxes are stacked in at least 5 rooms, and each box is also numbered. Soon, 2 large and 1 small brocade jade boxes were filled with mantou, and then they were sealed to prevent the spirit from overflowing. In just 2 minutes, Gu Luogue had already contacted her husband Gu Yiyun and explained the reason to him. This matter is too big for her to bear alone, so she can only seek help from trustworthy people to avoid delaying the best operation time and ruining her daughter's life. Gu Yiyun's character is still trustworthy, otherwise she wouldn't have married him. Gu Yunin also needs to be informed, after all, she is a family member and she is very smart. She can't hide it even if she wants to. Fortunately, this daughter is a kind and good child. Not to mention falling into trouble, she may also help find ways to deal with outsiders. Yunlu saw her mother's face look very ugly and asked the system with a bit of nervousness, "Did I expose it?" No, the similarity in personality between the host and the original owner is over 90%. In addition, there is no saying of looting or borrowing corpses to revive the soul in this realm, so no one will speculate in this regard, so the possibility of the host being exposed is zero. But isn't it true that there is blood connection between family members, and there are also many small habits that can be easily detected? The system is a bit speechless. Host, you usually read less dog blood novels. In reality, no one suspects that their loved ones have changed their souls due to a small habit in life. Besides, your possession is authorized by the original owner, and I have images as evidence here. Even if you expose it, you are not afraid. With these words from the system, Yunlu's confidence instantly increased. She immediately looked up and straightened her chest, smiling sweetly at her mother. Gu Luogue saw her silly smile and suddenly felt a slight headache. She rubbed her temples and felt a sense of powerlessness in her heart. This silly child, who hasn't realized what big things he has done yet, is still enjoying himself here. Yunlu, who was laughing heartlessly, didn't know that after such a while, her father on the new household registration book had already made 3 important phone calls and arranged 3 paths for her. Dear sister, not only has the entire Gu residence been blocked and communication signals been blocked, but also the strongest lawyer under the company's name has been contacted and is on her way over. Mother, with a flick of her finger, she has prepared all the professional books and props she needs to learn spiritual food in the future, and will deliver them directly to her doorstep tomorrow. Even she helped to inquire about the enrollment quotas under the name of a university professor majoring in spiritual food. Yunlu knew nothing about all of this, and she casually sat on a low stool, currently studying the system all. Due to the high completion rate of the beginner task, in addition to the original 30-point reward, there is also an additional reward of a black iron kitchen knife. Although this kitchen knife is not a spiritual tool, it is of ordinary quality, but it can also be considered the top type among ordinary products. Because her points have exceeded 0 and she has the ability to purchase goods, there is an additional System Mall icon in the upper left corner of the electronic screen. Opening the System Mall, there was a wide variety of products and a dazzling array that instantly caught her eye. Among them, the most eye-catching is the Today's Special Offer product. A 10 million cubic meter storage ring, originally priced at 30,000 points, with a special discount of 27,000 points today. Low-level Lingquan space, originally priced at 100,000 points, with today's special offer of 88,000 points. Advanced defense armor, originally priced at 200,000 points, with a special offer of 166,000 points today. Yunlu glanced at it, she wanted it all, but couldn't afford it. She looked away with difficulty and selected the price of the product as 0.30 points. Soon, there were only a few hundred items left. She glanced roughly and found that most of them were disposable items. Low-order shield symbols, 20 points per card. Low-order condensation talisman, 10 points per piece. Low-level gold spike talisman, 15 points per piece. Low-level storage bag, 50 cubic meters, 30 points per bag. Ordinary treasure bag, 10 cubic meters, 10 points per bag. Low-level pseudo-spiritual artifact. Safety protection jade pendant, 30 points per piece. Low-grade chi tonifying pill, 10 points per pill. Low-grade fake spiritual artifact. Xian silver sword, with 30 points per handle. There are too many things for her to pick out, so she decided to add all the items she likes to her shopping cart and click to purchase when needed later. After browsing the system mall, her enthusiasm for doing tasks suddenly skyrocketed. Excitedly, she asked the system, "Has the task been updated? What is the next task?" The tasks released by the system now have motivational properties. It saw that the host's enthusiasm had increased and immediately released the second task. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Do your best if you want to do it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Do your best if you want to do it. Beginner Task 2. Make lingmian dumplings. Step 1. Collect regular flour. Step 2. Collect regular yeast. Step 3. Collect regular animal meat. Step 4. Collect regular seasoning. Step 5. Make lingmian dumplings. Reward. 50 points. Making dumplings is also simple. Yunlu immediately stood up from the corner, rolled up her sleeves, intending to show off her skills. But just as she was about to choose ingredients, her dear sister pulled her away. "Just now my mother called out to you a few times, but you didn't respond." Gu Yunin arranged everything for her family and ran over, only to find her sister in a daze in the corner. Looking at her mother again, she shouted "Yunshi" a few times but didn't respond. Seeing her coming, she gave her a few instructions and hurriedly left. As she pulled Yunlu out, she said, "Don't think too much. We all know the situation, there will always be a way to protect you." Speaking of which, Gu Yunin pulled her even faster. Yunlu listened in confusion and her head was filled with question marks. What happened? Should she think too much? She couldn't understand the situation of protecting her. System, can you explain it? Host, there is no situation in this world where spiritual food is made from advanced ingredients, let alone a precedent for using ordinary ingredients to make spiritual food. After explaining her situation systematically and simply, she realized how wonderful the mantou made by herself was. Sure enough, she is a genius. Yunlu felt proud for a moment, imagining the scene of her conquering the world with spiritual food. But when she arrived at the living room and saw the pile of information in front of her parents, she immediately felt bad. "Yunshi, you're here. This is the study material that uncle has prepared for you. Come and take a look." Because the original owner did not want to call Gu's father, he always referred to himself as his uncle. Gu Yunlu obediently sat on the other side of the sofa, looking at the words, "Top Secret," printed on a pile of documents, feeling a bit puzzled. Gu Yun lightly pushed his golden glasses and explained, "These materials have not been put to the market yet. Please keep them safe and study them in your own room. Don't take them out." Gu Yunlu nodded, indicating understanding. She has obtained all the top secret information, and Gu's father is not as powerful as usual. She had just finished sighing, but what surprised her even more was later on. "This is your study plan for the next 10 years, choose one." Yunlu looked up at the 3 study plans in front of her, dumbfounded. How long has it been, less than half an hour, that even Gu's father has come up with a study plan in 3 different directions? Sure enough, parents all over the world are the same, hoping for their children to become dragons and phoenixes. Once they discover that their children have talent, they don't hesitate for a minute. Take a look at these 3 plans. One is to focus on cultivating spiritual food and achieve number 1 in the professional field within 10 years. The second one is to focus on spiritual food cultivation, supplemented by physical cultivation, and within 10 years, reach the top 3 and top 10 in the professional field, respectively. The third one is to cultivate spiritual food as a supplement and focus on physical cultivation. Within 10 years, we will reach the top 5 in our professional field. Yunlu. She carefully pondered and said, "Dad, Mom, isn't this learning goal set too high? 3 plans, the goal is not lower than the top 10, and there are also 2 in the top 10 for double degrees. They really dare to think. Upon hearing the sound of Dad, Guiyun felt a little excited and forced himself to suppress it. He said sternly, "You are excellent, believe in yourself. The goal of this task is not set high. So, which one do you choose?" This was the first time her daughter had called her father. Gu Luogue looked at her in surprise, afraid that she would be embarrassed, and then asked a question. This is a good question. In this world, the concentration of spiritual energy in the air is low, and various natural ingredients contain a lot of spiritual energy. Therefore, most people's cultivation and advancement mainly rely on absorbing the spiritual energy in spiritual food. It's just that warcraft is rampant in this world, and it's not easy for humans to open up an activity area. Therefore, to obtain ingredients containing spiritual energy, one must rely on spiritual food hunters to explore outside. After obtaining ingredients, spiritual food hunters need spiritual food masters to make delicious and edible spiritual food for humans. The spiritual food master is a spiritual chef, but has a higher status than ordinary chefs, so it is called master. These 3 plans are for her to choose whether to focus on following the path of a spiritual food master or to cultivate both spiritual food masters and spiritual food hunters. Yunlu carefully read the plans several times and ultimately chose the first option. To become the first spiritual food master within 10 years. She has talent and cheats. If she wants to do it, she must do her best, otherwise she won't be able to help others soar. The 3 people in the room are not surprised by her choice. She is truly her daughter, sister, and if you want to do it, be the most powerful first person. The task goal was set, and Gu's parents were busy contacting acquaintances and refining the plan details, almost staying up all night. Yunlu returned to her room and lay in bed, still awake. She didn't sleep because she suddenly realized a very serious problem. System, my soul has passed through. What should I do with my original body? Will her body die if she doesn't go back for a long time? Host, don't worry, no matter whether the final task is completed or not, you can return to the time when you left the original world. So, in the world where my body is located, time is stationary, right? You can understand it this way. If that's the case, then she can rest assured. The next day, Yunlu had breakfast and sat in a new car specially prepared for her by Gu's father. Looking at the elective course schedule, she realized that high school here does not have evening self-study. In addition to arts and sciences, the high school here also offers 2 elective courses, body refining and spiritual food. However, most of the elective courses are scheduled in the evening. Because she is a transfer student, she hasn't had time to enroll in elective courses yet. Now she has been transferred to the spiritual food class, fearing that the courses may not keep up. At 6:20 p.m., there were still 10 minutes left for the elective course. Yunlu found the Lingxia class, held her new student ID, and quickly found her seat based on the number on it. It's more like a stove than a seat. The walls of the classroom are filled with cabinets and ingredients. In the middle of the classroom is a large circular stove, which is where the teacher teaches. The seats of the students are square, layer by layer surrounding the central stove. Yunlu's position happens to be in the middle of the first row. It's a bit obvious for Gu's father to go through the back door, and he doesn't know if his new desk mate is easy to get along with. The class time is approaching, and the students have all arrived one by one. Yu Xiaobei walked into the classroom and sat in her seat. Unexpectedly, she saw her desk mate and said, "Gu Yunxi, why did you come?" She is a foodie who has been learning spiritual food since childhood and is a top student in the spiritual food class, so she sits in the first row. Gu Yunxi didn't enroll in the spiritual food elective course, why is she also here? Yu Xiaobei. Yunlu was also very happy when she saw this kind-hearted desk mate. Unexpectedly, we became desk mates again. The two of them started chatting enthusiastically. After learning that Gu Yunxi was a transfer student, Yu Xiaobei took the initiative to talk about previous courses, but gradually their topic changed. They talked about fried skewers from the course, from fried skewers to small cakes, and then from small cakes to braised dishes. As they were discussing with great excitement, Qin Qiushuang, who was sitting in the back seat, couldn't help but feel sour as she sat in the second row all along. She loudly said, "It's just because she has too stinky money at home. What's so proud of herself?" Upon hearing Qin Qiushuang's voice, Yunlu and her companions quieted down, feeling a bit awkward as they didn't know what to say for a moment. On the contrary, sitting diagonally opposite them, Wan Lingyu couldn't stand Qin Qiushuang's expression and retorted, "You're either sour about this or that every day. Besides saying some sour words, what else can you do?" Yunlu heard the sound and turned her head, feeling somewhat puzzled. Qin Qiushuang chose the spiritual food elective course and she knew it, but why did Wan Lingyu also come? End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Wenpian Fish. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Wenpian Fish. The most popular in this world are spiritual food hunters and spiritual food masters. Wan Lingyu believes that she is a soul-piercing person who is already extraordinary, and coupled with her exceptional talent, she is not satisfied with one of her identities. She wants to take 2 courses at the same time, and both courses need to be at their peak. However, it is normal to have such thoughts. Even if Yunlu found out, she would at most sigh. Young people, having dreams is always good. Seeing Qin Qiushuang and Wan Lingyu arguing again, class monitor Wang Yao quickly came over to be a mediator and said, "Stop arguing, the teacher will be over soon." At this moment, the teacher was tidying up at the back door, and upon hearing this sentence, she coughed in time. The classroom suddenly quieted down as if pressing the still button. Wan Lingyu stood upright, and Qin Qiushuang lost her aura. She quietly huddled in her seat, praying that the teacher had not noticed her just now. At this moment, Yunlu stood obediently and skillfully straight, unable to help but sigh in her heart. It seemed that no matter which world it was, the teacher's deterrent power over students was absolute. The teacher pretended not to see the little movements of the students and walked into the center of the classroom, putting down the lesson plan and knives in his hand, saying, "Classmates, today we have a new classmate in our class. Gu Yunxi. Everyone applauds and welcomes us." The class monitor took the lead in applauding, and the classmates responded with cooperation. The applause was scattered for a while, and Yunlu nodded awkwardly in response. The applause lasted for 7 or 8 seconds before gradually turning off the drum. The teacher saw that it was almost over, waved his hand, and continued, "All right, today's class is tight. Let's learn the method of making fish with slices." Yunlu had previewed this morning. Wenpian fish is a level 2 ingredient that can make up to level 2 spiritual food. The most common method is Wenpian fish sashimi. This tests the cutting skills and sensitivity to ingredients. The teacher took out a complete set of knives from his stationery bag, introduced the uses and usage of various knives in sequence, and then opened the textbook, saying, "Everyone, turn to page 67 of the textbook, where there is an introduction to the fish in the text. Wenpian fish, which lives in a salt lake, is a level 2 food material and is not difficult to catch, but its season is limited, so it is not common. Today we will mainly explain the method of tattooing and the precautions." The teacher showed the actual object while speaking. The method of making a sliced fish sashimi is simple, but there is a certain emphasis on how to cut it. Before cutting, everyone needs to meditate and feel the direction of the spiritual veins in the fresh fish's body, and then follow the angle of spiritual power flow to form pieces that are neither thin nor thick. Yunlu stared intently and saw that the teacher only took 2 breaths to complete the final image of the knife. A plate of evenly distributed and carefully arranged Wenpian fish was ready. Next, everyone can practice cutting with tofu first, and then deal with sliced fish. The tofu in this world looks a bit like winter melon, but its skin is yellow-brown and it is slightly larger than a basketball. Cut open the skin of the tofu melon, except for the black sesame seeds that are tightly attached to the skin, the rest are white tofu meat. Yunlu and Yu Xiaobei divided a melon and cut it open in the middle, 1.5 for each person. The skin of tofu melons is very thin, but a bit hard. When the skin is peeled off by a machine, the remaining pieces are square and large pieces of tofu. Yunlu used a knife to slice the tofu into palm-sized pieces, carefully placed them on the cutting board, picked out a piece, and slowly practiced the cutting technique by slicing. The tofu is very soft, and with one cut, its strength was not right. It didn't slice into pieces and turned directly into mud. She carefully controls the strength and timing of the knife, not seeking speed, but seeking stability. Slowly, she honed her hand feel, not to mention that the tofu she cut was as thin as silk, at least it looked thin and even. After all the tofu on the chopping board was cut, she took advantage of the feeling and quickly ran to the sink next to the ingredient cabinet to catch a live sliced fish. But she placed the live fish on the chopping board, holding a knife in her hand, but didn't know how to proceed. Just now, the teacher only talked about how to slice fish and didn't talk about how to kill fish. Yunlu pressed her hand on the fish's tail, feeling its vitality and feeling a little flustered. Ah! Xiaobei, come help me quickly, I can't kill fish. Ah! Don't worry, I'm here. Yu Xiaobei saw her panicked expression and quickly put down the fish she had killed halfway. She ran over to guide her. First, use the back of your knife to knock the fish's head and knock it unconscious. Yunlu quickly knocked on the fish's head 3 times in a row, almost crushing it. Seeing it not moving, she breathed a sigh of relief and said, "And then what?" "And then?" "Humph, it's true that this is the young lady who came to experience life. She doesn't even know how to kill fish, but luckily she intervened in a spiritual food class midway." Chen Qiushuang, who was dealing with live fish in an orderly manner, ran out to show off her sense of superiority. Yunlu finally knew why Ruan Lingyu was going against her. This person's mouth is very annoying and can argue with anyone. Sure enough, Ruan Lingyu, who couldn't stand her, popped up again and said, "Miss Chen, you're the most powerful. You're born to kill fish, unlike us who have to find someone to teach you." This burst of sarcasm made Chen Qiushuang seem like a born butcher, causing her to successfully explode again. "Who are you talking about?" Chen Qiushuang suddenly saw that the teacher not far away heard the commotion and gave her a quiet glance. She had no choice but to swallow the remaining penny and looked at Yunlu with anger. She vigorously chopped the fish and whispered in hatred, "I see what good thing you can make later." Being stared at inexplicably by someone, Yunlu and Yu Xiaobei's mood instantly became bad. They twisted their bodies and turned their backs towards her, continuing their fish-killing mission. Under her guidance, Yunlu gradually learned to separate the fish bones, remove the fish skin, clip out the fish bones, and finally clean up the textured fish meat. What Wenpian fish eats is fresh, and its taste and absorption rate of spiritual energy all depend on the knife skills of the fish. No surprise, this fish is her dinner for today and she must make it delicious. Yunlu nervously held the willow blade in her right hand and gently pressed the Wenpian fish in her left hand, carefully feeling the spiritual flow of the fish under her command. Slowly, her breathing became slower and slower, as if she felt a hint of coolness passing through her subordinates, as if it were a spiritual pulse or a flow of spiritual energy. She had a faint realization in her heart and used a knife to slowly slice the fish into thin slices, following the hint of coolness. At this moment, the students who were worried about how to cut the fish and meat were surprised to see her actions without hesitation. Yunshi, the classmate, did she find the direction of her spiritual pulse so quickly? She's really amazing, she has such strong inspiration. Don't be she can't feel the spiritual pulse, she's broken and broken. She's finished, Teacher Zhao hates such students the most. Chen Qiushuang listened to the discussion among her classmates and took a breath, feeling much better in an instant. She just said, how powerful could someone who switched jobs midway be at this moment? She stopped cutting and watched as Gu Yunxi handled the sliced fish well. She put 2 pieces of fish meat separately into a small plate and handed in her homework. She placed the fish in front of teacher Zhao, who frowned and reluctantly tasted a piece of fish meat. Immediately, she lost her temper. Okay. The sudden cheering made everyone stop their work and look over. Chen Qiushuang waited for the teacher's next criticism, but saw his eyebrows furrow and he smiled, saying, Gu's sliced fish is evenly sliced, with excellent spiritual preservation and taste. This assignment received an A++ rating, and everyone should learn from her in the future. The direction of the matter was different from what she had imagined. Chen Qiushuang clicked and accidentally crushed the fish tail of the essay in her hand. Finally, she only received a B+ on the homework she submitted. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Field Internship Quota. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Field Internship Quota. At 9:30 p.m., the course ended, and Chen Qiushuang looked at the transcript in her hand, feeling both anxious and resentful. The teacher once said that the top 3 students in this assignment can be recommended to participate in the joint field internship for high school students in half a month. The results just came out, and the top 3 are Gu Yunlu, Yu Xiaobei, and Wang Yao. Originally, her ranking in the top 3 of the class was a sure thing based on her grades, but unexpectedly, a Gu Yunxi came along midway, causing her to fail this assignment and cunningly win first place. Teacher, I don't agree. She immediately stood up and suggested that she compare with Gu Yunxi again. As long as she is given another chance, she will definitely surpass Gu Yunxi and get a spot for field internship. If you don't agree, hold it back. Teacher Zhao didn't look up and left with this sentence. Chen Qiushuang was stunned on the spot. Watching the teacher walk away, Wan Lingyu couldn't help but burst out laughing. Who do you think you are? If you want to compare, it depends on whether the teacher gives you a chance. The laughter was a bit lacking, but Yunlu inexplicably felt relieved and nodded in agreement. I don't want to compare again. So, if you're not satisfied, you can just hold on and don't come looking for me. Chen Qiushuang was so angry that her eyes turned red. She packed her things and slammed the back door of the classroom before leaving. Wan Lingyu ran over in a daze and saw that the back door of the classroom was not broken. Unfortunately, she said, I'll give her a discount. Teacher Zhao has explicitly stated that those who intentionally damage the public facilities in the classroom will be compensated 10 times for the damage. It's a pity that she couldn't be fined. She packed her backpack, looked at the transcript in her hand, and only received a C+. She realized that she was not suitable for learning spiritual food, and saw that Gu Yunxi was about to leave, so she immediately leaned in. Gu, can we discuss something with you? Yunlu stopped and said, You say. I got a spot for an outdoor internship in the fitness class. I heard that this outdoor internship, without any accidents, requires team building. How about we join the team then? In reality, spiritual food hunters and spiritual food masters do travel in teams, so as to ensure that the most effective processing is taken in a timely manner when the ingredients are freshest, and to make spiritual food with better taste and grade. I need to discuss this with my family. Yunlu didn't agree at all. After all, her sister is also in high school, and I don't know if they will be together. Wan Lingyu also thought of this and replied, Okay, then we'll talk about it later. However, under the same conditions, you must give priority to me. Yunlu nodded and saw her running away happily like a little wild cat. She couldn't help but think to herself. After being possessed, Wan Lingyu, although sometimes her speech may not be gentle enough, still has a pretty good personality. How on earth does she brainlessly consume energy to lead the world towards destruction? This question was asked to the system, but there was no answer, so she had to give up. She packed the cut tofu and took it away. She found the driver on the roadside and took the car home, only to find that the anti-theft door had been replaced. Going to the kitchen again, you can see from a distance that the layout of the kitchen has also changed. Next to the original kitchen, there was another small building with 2 floors, with beautiful champagne-colored walls and a string of small lanterns hanging. At this moment, the lantern was electrified, shining with a soft golden light. Under the light, Gu's parents and sister sat on chairs, waiting for her to come back. Yunlu looked at this warm scene and suddenly thought of the original owner. She asked the system, "Can you record everything that happened here?" She wants to wait for the opportunity in the future to show the original owner and let her know how much her family loves her. Host, Gu Yunxi has now been admitted to the civil service exam in the underworld. Maybe she will live better in the future and come back to see her family. The despicable voice of the system rang in her mind. So, host, you should first manage yourself and complete the task before proceeding. Yunlu. Then you should record it. Her ability is her responsibility, and my feelings are mine. Okay, the system responded quickly and silently activated the screen recording mode. Just as Yunlu was talking to the system, her parents and sister got up and walked over when they saw her. Sister Gu Yunin walked at the front and smiled gently at her, saying, "Yunxi, this is the kitchen my parents have prepared for you." Yunlu let out a reserved, "Wow," expressing her surprise and satisfaction. Gu's father and mother walked over as a guide and introduced to her, "This was urgently built for you today. The first floor is a kitchen with sound equipment, and you have everything you can use. If it's not enough, you can add it later. The second floor is a lounge, and there is also a small balcony next to it, with some flowers planted. If you don't like it, you can change it any time. The underground first floor is a cellar, which contains some ingredients. If you find it too small, you can expand it further." A family of 4 strolled up and down the small building twice, and at 10:30 p.m., they decided to sit on the balcony and have a late-night snack together. When it came to food, Yunlu remembered her sliced fish and specially packed half of it to bring back to them. It was still fresh and just right now. Gu's parents had already received the transcript sent by teacher Zhao, and were mentally prepared. However, after tasting a bite of Wenpian fish, they were still surprised. The girl, being asked not to reveal her talent for making spiritual food beyond the level, was able to make spiritual food that reached level 2 for the first time when processing level 2 ingredients. Take a look, how well you handle this spiritual food level. The two of them sighed one after another, not expecting their daughter's talent as a spiritual food master to be so high that they had not noticed it before, almost delaying it. After finishing a piece of sliced fish, Gu Yunin said directly, "Yunxi, let me team up with you for this field internship." Although Yunlu had this idea before, she was still surprised to hear her sister's words and said, "Sister, are you sure? Gu Yunin has the strength of a second-level warrior. If she can encounter higher-level ingredients and form a team with her as a beginner, what should she do if the ingredients are damaged?" As if she knew what she was worried about, Gu Yunlu smiled nonchalantly and said, "Don't worry, this time we will form a team of 10 people. 3 people will each come from the first to third year of high school, and the remaining one will be the team leader." Oh, this way, she felt relieved. After finishing the last piece of sliced fish, Yunlu suddenly remembered that her lingmian dumplings had not been made yet. "Mom and Dad, sister, please wait. I just had an idea and I'll make a dumpling for you to eat." Yunlu ran downstairs with a whoosh and saw a ready-made flour and a lot of frozen meat. She rolled up her sleeves and planned to make a pure meat-filled dumpling. She collects ginger juice, garlic juice, scallion juice, as well as cooking wine, light soy sauce, and soy sauce from various types of flytrap potted plants. Thanks to her own mother, she likes to make dumplings with her whole family, so she knows how to make dumpling filling. First, knead the flour and let it sit quietly for a period of time. Then, chop the animal meat into small pieces, add sesame oil, soy sauce, salt, and stir well. Then she took a little bit of filling with chopsticks, blanched it on steam, and tasted the salty taste. Mix the filling well and the dough is almost done. Rub and knead, then pull out a small piece and use a dough stick to press it into a round shape. This dumpling skin made by Yunlu is a bit ugly, as she has only seen her own mother make it before and has never tried it before. But it's okay to be ugly, as long as it's delicious. She rolled out the dumpling skin, picked a chopstick of meat, and first used the technique of attracting and sealing spirits to make the dough and meat filling full of spiritual power. Finally, she made the dumpling. Hundreds of dumplings with different shapes gradually took shape, and over 20 of the best-looking ones were picked out and steamed in the pot. Soon, the meat aroma of the dumplings reached the second floor. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Spiritual Cultivation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Spiritual Cultivation. Yunlu used garlic water and vinegar to make the dipping sauce, and Gu's father sniffed the smell and helped to pick up the dumplings. At some point, fresh cut fruits and freshly squeezed juice were placed on the small balcony on the second floor. The steamed dumplings are placed in the middle of the table, set against the colorful fruits, not to mention, they look quite nice. 4 people sat down in groups, picking up dumplings at the same time, dipping them in a little sauce, chewing and swallowing, all giving a thumbs up. Gu Mama praised, "Don't be fooled by this dumpling. The skin is a bit thick and the taste is a bit salty, but it's really good." Yunlu. She only recognized a bunch of flaws and didn't notice any good ones. Gu's father smiled and added, "You can use ordinary ingredients to make a level 3 spiritual food. Yunshi is very powerful." Gu Yunin also said, "Dumplings are rich in spiritual energy, so the taste is very good, enough to offset its shortcomings." The 3 of them boasted wildly, which made Yunlu regain her confidence and believe that her cooking skills were really impressive. "Yunshi, tomorrow weekend, you can go with your sister to participate in the special training," Gu's mother said, despite her natural talent. The daughter's talent exceeds expectations, and the plan also needs to be adjusted. She must quickly acquire self-protection ability. Yunlu has no reason to refuse, it's just that she hasn't had a chance to familiarize herself with her original martial arts skills yet, and I don't know if she will reveal her true identity. In the evening, when she returned to her room, she urgently called the system and said, 001, "Is there any way you can help me quickly acquire martial arts skills?" Host, don't you have a spiritual food guidebook? Follow the above method to induce qi and enter the body. After successfully introducing qi into the body, ordinary people's bodies will become lighter, and their reaction ability and speed will increase. The only martial arts in the world are fast and unbreakable. As long as the speed is fast, what kind of martial arts skills are needed? But isn't it that the original owner has poor spiritual roots and it's difficult to bring qi into his body? Host, it is necessary for me to popularize to you some common knowledge in the immortal world. Spiritual root talent, which is related to divine souls and has nothing to do with physical qualifications. In fact, the spiritual root is the ability to perceive the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, which is related to perception and generally depends on the divine soul, not the body shell. However, this common sense has been forgotten in the ordinary cultivation world, which leads to the illusion that spiritual root qualifications are related to the body. "Oh, what qualifications am I?" Yunlu then asked again. "You are the 3 spiritual roots of fire, wood, and earth, with spiritual root values of 81, 86, and 82 respectively, all exceeding 80, making you a rare and excellent spiritual root qualification." Upon hearing that her spiritual roots were good, Yunlu was overjoyed and immediately followed the guidance of the technique. She sat cross-legged on the bed, meditating, and silently reciting the mnemonic of introducing qi into her body. At first, her mood was a bit restless, but gradually, her breathing became longer, and many colored dots appeared around her body. Among them, the red, green, and yellow light spots are the most lively, rushing into her body and gently circulating within her spiritual veins, finally merging into the elixir field, forming a 3-color cyclone. This is the successful introduction of qi into the body. With the spiritual energy spinning in the body, the speed of spiritual energy entering the body is faster. During the process of spiritual energy flow brushing the spiritual meridians, many magazines are squeezed out and appear on the surface of the skin. This night, Yunlu took 3 showers, threw away a set of clothes and sheets, and turned on the ventilation in the bathroom for 2 hours before the smell barely dissipated. The next morning, Yunlu carried a bank card that Gu's father had stuffed into her bag, with a balance of 1 million yuan. Feeling secure, she took a car with Gu Yunin and arrived at the martial arts training center in the city center at 8.32. Gu Yunin took out her membership card and the waiter welcomed them up to the 3rd floor into the VIP independent training room. This is a training room exclusively for spiritual food hunters, which can simulate various natural environments for targeted training and reaction training. The training room of over 500 square meters is empty, with only the control panel near the door lit up. Yunshi, what simulation environment do you want? Gu Yunin asked. Anything is fine, just the most ordinary one is fine. Finally, Gu Yunin adjusted the forest training environment, which was somewhat similar to a tropical rainforest. The trees were tall and a bit hot, and the air was damp, with faint animal screams and roars. Considering that Yunlu is here for the first time, Gu Yunin kindly adjusted the training mode to 1v1. Yunlu had a bad intuition when she saw her standing next to the console, maintaining a posture of stopping training at any time. At this moment, the noisy jungle suddenly quieted down. She gathered all her energy and stared ahead, only hearing 3 sounds of shush shush. A huge black ape 3 people tall jumped and fell in front of her. Yunlu looked up and saw the strong and bulging muscles on its chest. Then she looked up and saw its sharp teeth all over her mouth, which instantly made her hesitate. Hi. Hello, she awkwardly smiled, swallowed her saliva, and secretly took a small step back. Roar, the black ape seemed to be unable to understand human language, and its huge tone, accompanied by a roar, pounced directly on her face. The strong bad breath made her feel suffocated. She wiped her face and thought to herself, this environment is quite realistic. But the black ape didn't give her time to react. Her huge arms were lifted high, and she put her energy into position, shooting straight at her. Yunlu was flustered in her heart and didn't care to wipe half of her saliva. She directly poured all her spiritual power into her feet and jumped backwards with all her strength. Bang, bang. Oh. She suddenly exerted too much force and collided with the ceiling. Under the impact of the recoil, she fell straight to the ground. Painful, tears welled up in the corners of Yunlu's eyes, and she let out a few moans, feeling that her arms and legs must have been torn. The training was interrupted, and she was helped up by her sister. She opened her pants and applied the medicine, which turned red and purple. The medicine touched the wound, causing her to hiss and gasp in pain. Looking at the black ape again, it was pressed the pause button and was in an attacking position, hovering in mid-air, hoarse and grinning, as if it was about to bite in the next second. Alright, after applying the medicine and tying the gauze, Gu Yunin pushed her, indicating that the training could continue. Yunlu hurriedly said, Sister, take a break for a while, I'll reflect on it first. After the war, summarizing is a good habit. Gu Yunin instructed the trail to start in 10 minutes. Time was tight, and Yunlu was no longer idle. Her brain was running rapidly, thinking about the next battle strategy. In fact, she should put in some effort, no longer hit the wall, and could completely avoid the attack of the black ape, walking it and running. But constantly avoiding like this is not a solution, we need to use a few attacking martial arts skills. The martial arts skills of the original master include blowing palms, cutting with sharp blades, floating on water, tornado whirlpool, and 13 sticks. Blowing palms is too gentle to deal damage. Floating on the water is a body technique with little aggression, while blade slash and 13 stick are close-range skills that she doesn't dare to use. Then there's only a tornado vortex left. She quickly simulated and demonstrated these martial arts skills in her heart, making sure she knew how to use them. Then, she walked around a dozen meters behind the black ape and shouted loudly to her sister, "I'm ready." Yunlu glanced at her position and didn't say anything, then clicked on, training to continue. Roar! The black ape began to move again, and under the tremendous inertia, it pounced forward, triggering a burst of black and gray smoke and dust. It rode forward 4 or 5 meters before stopping. A tornado vortex taking advantage of the black ape being blinded by dust, Yunlu silently recited the name of the martial arts technique in her heart, using the spiritual power in her meridians to unleash it. A 2-meter-high small wind vortex instantly formed at her feet, spinning rapidly and rushing towards the black ape. End of this chapter. Why not take 2 courses at the same time in Chapter 10? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Why not take 2 courses at the same time in Chapter 10? The wind swept up the dust and made a whining sound. In less than 2 seconds, the wind grew twice and collided head-on with the black ape, wrapping it completely inside. The black ape was hit by the wind and couldn't help but shake its body left and right, then sat on the ground with a but, looking up and making a shy roar. It's done. Looking at the motionless black ape, Yunlu's combat prowess was restless, and she wanted to rush up to a set of melee martial arts skills. But she glanced at her small arms and legs. And thought to herself, let's forget it. There aren't many fighting moves, just win. But this black ape is a bit resistant to beating. She used 2 consecutive moves to create a tornado vortex, causing it to bottom out and become dizzy. I suddenly feel that I was a bit worried before. She looked at the state of the black ape lying dead and thought to herself, if we could see the blood bars of the black ape now, it would probably be in a red state long ago. Seeing victory on the horizon, Yunlu's restless heart gradually gained the upper hand. She gathered her strength with her feet and her right hand, rushing forward to strike her forehead with a sharp blade. With a loud bang, the black ape was hit one after another and could no longer bear it. Its body tilted back and fell to the ground. Yunlu looked at the motionless black ape and suddenly felt a surge of pride in her heart. She stroked her bangs with her hand and looked at her mysterious sister. "Sister, did you let the water go? This training is probably too easy, isn't it?" Yunlu didn't intend to remind her, but she glanced at the black ape, whose spiritual energy was becoming increasingly restless, and decided to add some water. This is the Fury Black Ape, and there is a high chance that it will trigger its Fury attribute when it is about to be knocked down, she reminded. What? What Fury attribute? Yunlu didn't turn a corner for a moment, but the spiritual energy in the air suddenly became violent, making her instinctively feel something was wrong. Not good. Black Ape, it's starting to move again. She felt a thump in her heart as she kept retreating for more than 10 meters, only to see the black ape suddenly jump up, with red eyes and arms pounding her chest. Oh, a sound of Mount Taishan apes was heard all the time. Yunlu looked at the black ape with bulging muscles all over her body, without even thinking, and gave it another whirlwind. But this time, before the wind could get close to it, it sensed it and jumped up, crossed the wind, and arrived in front of her. 5 minutes later, Yunlu lay on the ground, panting. Do you still want to continue? Yunlu looked at her being knocked down 3 times, feeling a little worried. Yow. Yunlu's mouth was a bit swollen, and she couldn't even smooth her tongue when speaking. However, continuing like this is not a solution, sister, give me a stick. In these few minutes, she used all her martial arts skills except for 13 sticks. Just now, she simulated her martial arts skills again in her mind and suddenly discovered a new idea. This time, she must be able to do it. Yunlu helped her find a long stick and also brought a medicine box. The swelling medicine that was originally placed under the operating table is a bit insufficient. Yunlu took the long stick, which was about 1 meter long and made of a special alloy. It was cold to the touch and had a heavier texture. She waved casually and felt a good touch. Gu Yunin opened the console again, but this time, she still didn't expect her sister to win. In order to unleash the potential of his younger sister, this black ape is equipped with the first-level strength of King Wu. What she thinks is to have her sister train for half a month to adapt to the attack power of such warcraft and develop her reaction ability. In the future, she can suffer less damage in the wild. However, my younger sister refuses to accept defeat and is willing to try more, which is also good. However, this time, she is afraid that she will fail again. Is this successful? Gu Yunin was a bit dazed, looking at the black ape lying on the ground and then at her sister stomping on it, feeling a bit dreamy. Wait, let her first recall how she won just now. Firstly, the younger sister uses the tornado vortex to turn the black ape into a frenzy, and then uses a water float to quickly dodge the black ape's attack. Later, she seemed to use her palm blowing to create two strong spiritual currents, guiding the tornado vortex to appear directly at the feet of the black ape, limiting its mobility. Finally, she simultaneously used 13 sticks and a sharp blade slash, attaching the sharp blade to the long stick and chopping towards the back of the black ape's head. Did she create and use two sets of combined martial arts skills in just a few minutes? Although these are all low-level martial arts skills, it is enough to prove that she has a great talent for martial arts. Perhaps she is more suitable as a spiritual food hunter than a spiritual food master. Just as Gu Yunin was pondering, she clenched her long stick and struck the back of the black ape's head, causing her hands to almost crack open due to the shock. Pain, the recoil is really too strong. She shouldn't have used a stick from the beginning, it would be great to just use a sword to strike. Sister, come and see if my hand is broken. Yunlu's shout brought Gu Yunin back to her senses. She quickly ran over and saw that both hands were swollen and red. When she touched the bone again, it didn't break. It's okay, just apply some medicine and rest for a day. She skillfully applied the medicine, ignoring her painful moans and casually asked, do you want to think about it? Master Martial Arts. Ah. Yunlu's head was full of questions. Half a day later. The Gu family's mansion is a gathering of 4 people, sitting on Yunlu's exclusive small balcony, grilling and cooking hot pot. That's it, my younger sister has a great talent for martial arts. Gu Yunin cooked fresh tripe while truthfully explaining what happened in the training center. This is a good thing, indicating that our family has good talent in Yinshi. Gu's father handed the grilled meat skewers to Gu's mother. Gu Mama took the skewers and directly pulled them into the bowls of her 2 daughters. Then why don't we also repair both doors? I can rest assured when you go out in the future, she said. Yunlu took the grilled meat pieces pulled from the skewers, wrapped them in chili noodles, wrapped them in lettuce, and stuffed them into her mouth. This meat is delicious, have another skewer, she said. Gu's mother picked up a chopstick and blanched vegetables for her, saying, I'm telling you the truth, and eating too much meat is not good for your health. She's still a child, and it's not a bad thing to eat more meat when she's growing up. Gu's father placed another skewer of grilled meat in front of Yunlu and thoughtfully brought her another plate of dipping sauce. That's right, that's right. Yunlu happily ate the meat and saw that Gu's mother's eyes had become dangerous. She quickly changed her mind and said, that's right, it's not that difficult to learn 2 subjects together. That's how it was decided for her to study 2 subjects at the same time. For half a month in a row, Yunlu has been busy running around the school, Gu's home, and training center every day, almost without much time to sleep. After systematic high-pressure training, she not only improved her cooking skills, but also advanced her physical cultivation to the 8th level of martial arts. Her spiritual cultivation has not changed much, but she has learned a simple small spell. Fireball. Although the fireball she can use now is only as big as a fist at most, its practicality is still quite high. At least in the wild, there is no need to worry about not being able to catch fire anymore. She has completed 3 novice tasks in the system. Mantou, dumplings and Lamian noodles. Unlike Mantou and dumplings, Lamian noodles is really good. She rubs it repeatedly to get a dough with proper humidity. After her constant exploration, she pulls out Lamian noodles with uniform thickness. For these 3 tasks, she earned a total of 160 points, including a black iron kitchen knife, an ordinary wood chopping board made of unknown wood, and a thin and narrow killing knife similar to a seedling knife. She looked at the 160-point huge sum in the system space, her restless heart finally couldn't bear it, and she placed an order and clicked, purchase. End of this chapter.